Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Maverick News channel. We have some special stuff lined up for you tonight. We are certainly going to talk about the ongoing crisis in the Middle East as Trump's 48-hour deadline approaches, now just hours away, with both sides ramping up threats, if not kinetic military action. Also, we'll show you what's going on in Cuba as much as we can. It seems getting information out of Cuba is somewhat difficult tonight, but we'll do our best, and we'll highlight the most recent developments coming out of Ukraine as well. So ask battles and conflicts, or whatever word you want to use. It's all about peace, right? The President of Peace bringing us tonight's program. Straight from a plan of chaos, or whatever this is that's unfolding tonight. We'll highlight all of that. But then, not in a little while, I will be joined by a special guest tonight who will assist me in reviewing what I think is becoming something of a box office success, the new movie, Project Hail Mary. It raises some interesting social questions, philosophical questions, and I think in some ways it's a statement even on what's going on today in our world. So even though it's a science fiction flick that takes us to an interstellar destination far, far away. But I'm not far away from returning after this.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Let's get right into it, shall we? So, President Trump's 48-hour ultimatum for Iran remains in force, with the deadline now just hours away. Iran has escalated its counter threats today. The IRGC has stated it will completely close the Strait of Hormuz if U.S. strikes hit power plants, and will keep the strait closed until the facilities are rebuilt. Officials are vowing to target U.S. allied energy infrastructure, IT systems, and Gulf desalination plants. Iranian officials warned of irreversible destruction of critical regional infrastructure. No U.S. strikes have occurred yet. The strait remains effectively blocked tonight. Oil prices are very, very high, and the U.S.-Israel-Iran war is now in its fourth week, with ongoing Iranian missile strikes on southern Israel tonight. Of course, Trump said that the war would last only about 3 or 4 weeks. We're now into the 4th week of this conflict, with both sides rattling sabers, ramping up the rhetoric, the propaganda, and the threats. This is an IRGC spokesperson, media type, issuing this statement tonight.
Bismillah ar-Rahman
In the name
ar-Rahim.
of Allah, bring it back.
Bismillah ar-Rahman
The most gracious,
ar-Rahim.
most
Ya
merciful.
ayyuhalladhina
Oh, you believe when you meet the disbelievers.
amanu idha laqitum alladhina kafaru zahfan fala
Advancing, do not turn your backs
tuwalluhum
to them.
al-adbar. رئیس جمهور
The terrorist
تروریست
president
آمریکا در ادامه
of
رفتار
America continuing his
تجاوزکارانه و ناامن‌سازی
aggressive
جهانی
and
تهدید
destabilizing
کرده است
behavior
که اگر
has
ایران
threatened that if Iran doesn't keep the
تنگه
Strait of
هرمز را باز
Hormuz
نکند
open,
نیروگاه
he will target Iran's
ایران را
power
هدف قرار خواهد داد.
plants.
بارها گفته ایم
We've
که
said
تنگه
repeatedly that the
هرمز
Strait of
فقط
Hormuz is
روی
only
دشمن و
closed to enemies and
ترددهای با
harmful
ضرر بسته است
traffic, and it hasn't been
و
fully
هنوز به طور
closed,
کامل بسته نشده است
yet it's under our
و
intelligent
تحت کنترل هوشمند
control,
ما
and harmless passage
و
occurs
عبور و مرور بی‌ضرر
under
تحت
specific conditions
ضوابط خاصی
to ensure our security.
متضمن امنیت و منافع ما
and interests.
انجام می شود. لیکن در
However,
صورت عملی شدن
If America's threats
تهدیدات
against
آمریکا در خصوص
Iran's
نیروگاه‌های
power plants are
ایران
carried out,
بلافاصله اقدامات
actions will
تنبیهی
be
انجام خواهد شد.
taken immediately.
یک،
First,
تنگه
the Strait of
هرمز
Hormuz
به طور
will
کامل
be
بسته می
completely
شود
closed
و تا نیروگاه‌های
and will not
تخریب شده
reopen
ما
until
بازسازی
our
نشوند
destroyed
این
power
تنگه باز
plants
نخواهد
are
شد.
rebuilt.
دو، همه
Second,
نیروگاه‌های
all power
برق،
plants, energy
زیرساخت‌های انرژی
infrastructure,
و
and
فناوری
information
اطلاعات رژیم
technology
صهیونیستی
of the Zionist
به
regime
طور گسترده
will be
هدف قرار
extensively
خواهند
targeted.
گرفت. سه،
Third,
همه شرکت‌های
all similar
مشابه در
companies
منطقه که
in the
سهامدار
region with
آمریکایی
American
دارند به طور
shareholders will be
کامل تخریب
completely
خواهند شد.
destroyed.
چهار،
Fourth,
نیروگاه‌های برق کشورهای
plants in
منطقه
regional
که
countries
میزبان
hosting
پایگاه
American
آمریکا هستند
bases
هدف
will be
مشروع
legitimate
خواهند بود. همه
targets.
چیز برای
Everything is
جهاد
prepared
بزرگ
for
با هدف
the great
نابودی
jihad
کامل
aimed at
کلیه
completely
منافع
destroying
اقتصادی
all
آمریکا در
American
منطقه غرب آسیا
economic interests in
آماده
the
است.
West Asian
ما
region.
شروع کننده
We
جنگ
were not the ones who started
نبودیم و اکنون هم شروع
the
کننده
war,
نخواهیم
and we
بود.
will not
اما
be the
اگر
ones to start it now.
دشمن
But if the enemy
آسیبی
damages
به نیروگاه‌های ما برساند
our power plants
ما برای دفاع از
we will do
کشور و
whatever it takes
منافع ملت خود
to defend our
دست به هر
country
کاری
and our
خواهیم زد
nation's interests.
و روند بدون
In the process of
توقف نابودسازی اهدافی که بیان شد
the stated targets
آغاز
will
خواهد
begin
شد و هیچ چیز
without
نمیتواند
pause, and nothing can stop our
مانع
continued
استمرار عملیات ما برای
operations to destroy
نابودسازی
the
زیرساخت‌های
energy,
انرژی،
oil, and
نفت
industrial
و صنعت
infrastructure
آمریکا و
of
همپیمانان
America
او
and
در
its
منطقه
allies
شود و
in the
من
region. And victory comes only
الا من
from
عند الله العزیز
Allah the mighty, the wise.
الحکیم.
Yeah. Let's go over to Truth Social and do a little Truth Social scroll, shall we? And see what Trump is saying tonight as everything heats up over there. Let's go. I haven't seen in the last couple of hours. We'll just see if he's posted anything new. Here's his Truth Social page. 2 days ago. No, that's an SNL thing. Oh, he's posting that because I think it mocks Keir Starmer. And no, that's 8 hours ago, talking about Chuck Schumer discombobulated in the Senate yesterday. Said we must fund ICE prior to correcting himself. Thank you, Chuck. I agree. Okay. And where are we here? Is he saying anything tonight about any of this?
We have responsibility, Terry. We did not have any accountability for what was going on there, and we should have.
Talking about he's hung up on the Mueller thing. Mueller. The lies of Robert Mueller and his criminal gang at the Stone Zone. Yeah, well, there's a little bit of bias there from Roger Stone. but okay. So, yeah, nothing really new on Iran at this point. Now, with the death of Iran, the greatest enemy America has is the radical left, he says. This is 10 hours ago. Highly incompetent Democrat Party. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So what he's saying, I mean, it's like, think about this for a minute, okay? What he's saying here is, now with the death of Iran, which is, I wouldn't say that that's a done deal yet, but we'll see. The greatest enemy America has is the radical left, highly incompetent Democrat Party. So, I think this is maybe why America is in trouble. Because there's no room here in a statement like that for any kind of civil discourse. This is a pretty extreme, this is extremism. And I think you get it on the other side too. Not with everyone, but you're seeing it on display in all its glory or shame with Donald Trump tonight. Now with the death of Iran, the greatest enemy America has is the radical left, highly incompetent Democrat Party. So the Democrat Party, if you had to list, say, the top 5 or top 10 enemies of America, Trump is saying that Iran was number 1 by far, and the Democrat Party number 2. Really? Really? Seems pretty extreme. So these are the politicians that you need to work with on one level or another to sort of get things done for the people. We're all in a lot of trouble because of this kind of attitude. I've often said, liberals are not my enemy. They are my neighbors. All right? If you're a conservative in Canada, Conservative Party, you just fiscal conservative, whatever. I don't view liberals as my mortal enemy. When you start thinking like that, now you want to throw your political opponents in jail. You want to maybe do worse. That's what that kind of statement leads to. And yesterday we saw that post, right, about Robert Mueller, where Trump said, "I'm glad he's dead." And I see people online, I've seen people online in the last 24 hours defending that. That's a pretty extreme statement, too. But it has cost him. He used to say I could go out into the street and shoot someone, and my base would still support me. Well, maybe, but not everyone. And he has political opponents, even people who have at times supported him, breaking away because of these crazy statements he's making, like the one he made yesterday about Robert Mueller. And I've seen people even, attacking me because Trump was a victim, and you have to understand how much he suffered because they lied. Robert Mueller lied about Donald Trump. Well, that's not really an accurate assessment. If you think about it, Mueller did conduct the investigation, but ultimately did not charge Donald Trump with anything. And if you read the actual report, it has all kinds of evidence laid out showing connections between Trump, the Trump team, the Trump campaign, and Russian assets, Russian organizations, the Russian government, all kinds of Russian connections. And you've seen over the decades Trump's involvement with Russian businesses. He had the Russian real estate deals. He had Russian beauty pageant over there. Definitely connections to Russia. The thing is, Mueller didn't charge him, said that that the report, his decision in the end, through the report, did not exonerate Donald Trump, but they didn't charge him because there was no evidence that rose to a level of criminality. And some people say, well, that's exoneration. Well, maybe not. You can assess for yourself. The reality is, though, definitely some Russian connections. And is that ethical? Does that serve the American people? These are questions that you should maybe ask yourself instead of just blindly following. And because this is one of the reasons why it was so distasteful yesterday to hear Donald Trump say what he said or post what he posted about Robert Mueller, saying he's glad he's dead. Mueller never even charged him. Now, you can say that he harassed him, it was the process that was the punishment, blah, 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 but in the end, Trump himself wasn't charged with anything. Mueller left it really up to Congress to pursue impeachment if they so chose, based on the evidence in the report and anything else they could dig up. And just within the last week, I've seen more presentations connecting dots. I'd have to find the presentation that I saw. I think it was at a hearing. I can't remember who it was that was presenting it. It was lengthy and detailed and laid out all the evidence, I think, in a very clear way, showing why some people still have concerns about Donald Trump's connections to Russia and even Vladimir Putin. And then you've seen him come out this past week and again just raise concerns because of the way that he talks about Vladimir Putin. Putin can be trusted more and he's easier to work with than Vladimir Zelensky, making people scratch their heads. It doesn't make sense to a lot of folks. But this dedication to just willfully, blindly follow a politician, at this point, it really does boggle my mind. That's why, folks, some of you are being accused of being in a cult because you just can't bring yourself to criticize Donald Trump in any way. And he's no politician is deserving of that kind of immunity. Here's Chris Christie responding to Trump's reaction online yesterday to the death of former FBI Director Robert Mueller.
His country called him to service. He never said no.
Talking about Mueller.
And he never put conditions on it. And even times when the Russia investigation went on, when he was brought into play there, he wasn't up to it.
I said that yesterday, too, if you recall. He wasn't up to it. He, passed away from Parkinson's disease. And when he walked in to present his findings and on his investigation, he didn't seem like he was sharp at all. He seemed off, slow, a little discombobulated at times. And I said, he's not well, and he really shouldn't even be working. But there it was, and that was, I think, the first signs publicly that the Parkinson's was taking hold.
I mean, we saw that at the end. Yeah. But he couldn't say no when his country called him and asked him to serve. And this is something, to say what the president said about Bob Mueller just shows you how completely self-consumed the president is. Because that's what it comes from. It comes from his own sense that the only thing that matters in the world is him.
Instantaneous the way he did it.
And of course, that's what a child does, John.
And by the way,
his country called him to...
Chris Christie, mixed, personally I have mixed feelings about the guy, but he's not wrong. He's not wrong. Yeah. Not wrong at all, actually. Okay, so let's just come back here for a moment. Situation in Cuba is unfolding too, right? So we'll have to see what happens in Iran. This is a very, very dangerous situation. Very clear that there's no way at this point this is what Trump had planned. this whole situation with Iran is, I think he wanted to go in and bomb the place, get rid of the leadership, and then hope that something better just came into place. I think he didn't go. He hasn't been going in any way the way that they were planning, and that is why it's having such profound effects and ramifications and higher oil prices. Off to Ukraine we go. The Russian-Ukraine war now in its, heading into its fifth year with battlefield conditions mixed and U.S.-led diplomacy intensifying under President Trump, who has set a firm June 2026 deadline for a comprehensive peace agreement. Yeah, well, there's that deadline again. Well, I don't think, whatever. Ukrainian officials held a vital bilateral talks this weekend in Florida with the Trump administration envoys focusing on ceasefire terms, post-war security guarantees for Ukraine, and the possibility of a new prisoner of war exchange. Full trilateral negotiations involving Russia remain paused because of the ongoing U.S.-Israel-Iran conflict. And on the ground, Russian forces claim slow advances and capture of several settlements in eastern Donetsk, supported by heavy drone and missile barrages that continue to kill civilians and damage energy infrastructure. Energy at the core of all of these conflicts. We've seen Ukraine attacking Russian oil facilities and Russia going after energy infrastructure, trying to freeze the Ukrainians in the dark this winter, as they have in previous winters. Ukrainian commanders report successful counter-operations and net territorial gains in the south over recent weeks, some saying they're actually gaining back ground and, on some fronts, winning. President Zelensky has warned that the Middle East war is creating critical shortages of air defense missiles for Ukraine, while strategically benefiting Russia by diverting Western attention and boosting Moscow's energy export revenues. No immediate ceasefire is in sight, but diplomatic momentum is the strongest it has been in months, or so say the reports. But I think what we're seeing is just a spinning of wheels. And over in Cuba. But we're seeing still, I've seen posts too out of Mexico where this whole thing with the drug cartels is not resolved. It's having certainly a huge impact on tourism. And I've seen people saying, don't come to Mexico right now. You'd have to be crazy if you go down to Mexico. So that's still very much in flux. And the Trump administration continues to enforce an effective oil and fuel blockade on Cuba. It's been in place since late January through an executive order threatening heavy tariffs on any nation supplying petroleum to the island, combined with naval interceptions of tankers after Venezuelan shipments were cut off. Cuba has now gone nearly 3 months with almost no major fuel imports. As a result, they don't even have enough fuel for garbage trucks, and garbage is piling up sky high. It's becoming a health issue. They have a serious crisis in Cuba. The result is the island's worst energy crisis in decades. The national electricity grid has collapsed at least 3 times this month alone, including a major nationwide blackout, which right now I believe is now into its 8th straight day/night. Millions remain without power. No power for hospitals, even, who are, postponing surgeries. They have backup generators, but you need fuel for them too. Water systems are beginning to fail. Transport is paralyzed. Food and medicine shortages are worsening. As I said, trash piling up in the streets. And the tourism there, Cuba, has essentially collapsed as well. Cuba's president, Miguel Diaz-Canel, confirmed high-level talks with the U.S. in mid-March, but has firmly rejected any negotiation over his leadership or regime change. Over on NBC today, Meet the Press. Cuba's deputy foreign minister had this reaction to the Trump administration's demands, and also reacts to what Trump said this past week about, how he can basically do whatever he wants with Cuba.
Thank you so much for being here. I do want to start off by playing for you something that President Trump said about Cuba just this week, speaking from the White House. Take a listen.
I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba. That'd be good. That's a big honor.
Taking Cuba.
Taking Cuba in some form, yeah. Taking Cuba. I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I could do anything I want with it. You want to know the truth?
Mr. Deputy Foreign Minister, what was your reaction to hearing that? Is Cuba bracing for the United States to take it in some form?
Truly, we don't know what they're talking about, but I can tell you this. Cuba is a sovereign country and has the right to be a sovereign country and has the right to self-determination. Cuba would not accept to become a vassal state or a dependent state from any other country or any other superpower.
Well, let's delve into this a little bit more deeply. Cuba's president released a statement that read in part, quote, "Any external aggressor will clash with impregnable resistance." Do you believe any action by the United States would escalate into a military conflict?
We hope not, but what our president expressed is what any country that respects itself would convey if there was a threat to try to take over a country or to try to dominate or control it in any way. But we truly hope that there's no military action, and frankly, we see no reason. We see no justification for military action against Cuba. Cuba is a peaceful country. We're not an enemy of the United States. We don't pose any threat to the United States. In fact, we wish, and we said it openly, that we would like to have a friendly and respectful relationship with the United States, with its government, and we've been developing it for a long time with the people of the United States.
And yet you heard those words by President Trump. So I'm wondering, is your military preparing for a potential engagement with the United States?
Our military is always prepared, and in fact it is preparing these days for the possibility of military aggression. We would be naive if, looking at what's happening around the world, we would not do that. But we truly hope that it doesn't occur. We don't see why it would have to occur, and we find no justification whatsoever. Why would the government of the United States force its country to take military action against a neighboring country like Cuba?
So this is a remarkable statement that you've just made, that Cuba is in fact preparing for the potential possibility of a military engagement with the United States. Can you be more specific? What do those preparations look like?
Our country has historically been ready to mobilize as a nation, as a whole, for military aggression. We truly always see it as something far from us. We don't believe it is something that is probable, but we will be naive if we do not prepare. That's what I can tell you.
The U.S. and Cuba have confirmed that they are talking, but have given very few details. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is leading those talks for the United States. Here's what he had to say from the White House this week. Take a listen.
So they're in a lot of trouble. And the people in charge, they don't know how to fix it. So they have to get new people in charge.
So is the United States insisting on regime change in order to give Cuba economic relief?
I don't know what they're insisting among themselves, but I can tell you, in conversations with the United States and in dialogue with the United States, the nature of the Cuban government, the structure of the Cuban government, and the members of the Cuban government are not part of the negotiation. That is something that no sovereign country negotiates. I don't know how many examples are there of countries that negotiate with a foreign power their system of government or the nature of the government. I'm sure the United States is not ready to negotiate with another government its constitutional system, its political system. Now, the U.S. government knows that the problems that Cuba faces are in a great measure the result of policies of the United States aimed at causing as much harm possible to the Cuban economy, to Cuban society, and to the people of Cuba, which makes it for any government very difficult to manage things and to get good results when a superpower is exerting such level of pressure, above all economically, on the country.
Are you saying that...
Okay, so... there's the Deputy Foreign Minister from Cuba saying regime change is definitely off of the table, which is not unexpected. Just back to the situation in Mexico and the most up-to-date information there. So again, the U.S.-Mexico battle against drug cartels remains intense under the Trump administration's aggressive stance. Of course, back in February, Mexican forces backed by U.S. intelligence from a new military-led joint interagency task force counter-cartel killed Nemesio El Mencho Asuegra Cervantes, leader of the powerful Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG, in a raid in Jalisco. The operation triggered widespread reprisal violence, killing over 70 people, roadblocks, arson, disruptions in multiple states, lingering instability and power struggles in CJNG. President Claudia Sheinbaum has ramped up operations, extradited dozens of suspects to the United States, emphasized cooperation without allowing U.S. troops on Mexican soil, rejecting sovereignty violations. Trump has formed the America's Counter-Cartel Coalition, or Shield of the Americas, with select Latin American nations for military-focused efforts against cartels designated as terrorist groups. He continues pressuring Mexico, calling it the epicenter of cartel violence, while Sheinbaum counters by demanding the U.S. halt illegal arms flows. 80% of cartel weapons, by the way, come from the United States, and address domestic drug demand. So no direct U.S. military strikes in Mexico have occurred, but threats persist amid fentanyl crisis concerns. Violence remains high in cartel hotspots like Jalisco, Sinaloa. Tourist areas face advisories still tonight. So we continue to watch that, and that is the most up-to-date information that we've been able to curate from top news sources, including Reuters, New York Times, Associated Press, Al Jazeera, looking across, and independent media, and, of course, just people there in Mexico tonight. So that's what we have been able to figure out thus far. Let's bring our guest for the evening in. Hopefully he's awake and ready to go here, because we're going to review a movie. There he is. Hello, sir. Joseph.
Hello.
Welcome back, sir. All the way from the Motor City, Detroit.
Yeah.
Author of Terror Strikes.
And all those other books behind me.
Yes. How many books have you written there?
I am working on number 13 overall right now.
Whoa. Lucky 13.
Internationally. I mean, total 30, 40, 50 books over my lifetime. But yes, we're number 13 that will be internationally published.
Well, maybe one of these days one of your books will be made into a movie.
Yeah, I still have Terror Strikes up on Story Rocket, trying to get that made into a movie. So, and my whole Life and Living series, they don't need to take maybe one book. They could take 3 of the books and kind of interweave the characters all together to make a collage or montage type movie.
Cool. Well, speaking of, what were you going to say? Go ahead.
Yeah, there's There's a firm in France, Redline Studios, I'd been in discussions with regarding terror strikes. There's a firm, I can't remember the movie they made over the last couple years. It was a great movie. I wish I could think of the title. That I reached out to them in Sweden to talk to them about my Is E.T. Really Here book, because theirs was a sci-fi alien type thing. So a couple irons in the fires, but no real solid, action yet, unfortunately.
Well, so you messaged me and said, I just saw this new flick. So I'll come back to this. I used to do a film review program years ago when I was much younger called Pick of the Flicks. So I'm thinking we should resurrect that name so we can frame these and brand these movie reviews as standalone segments, right? So I don't know. We'll go to the chat and I'll ask people over on Rumble. Do you think Pick of the Flicks is a good name for these movie reviews?
It's certainly better than Pick Your Nose.
Well, there you go. So you messaged me. You said you went to see Project Hail Mary with Ryan Gosling, and you said you have to go see the movie so we can review it. So I did. I went to see it.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Yep. It was great, wasn't it?
I liked it. I thought it was a good movie, a good flick. Yeah.
Like any movie, you have to suspend reality and your belief, and there are holes like there are in any movie, and in a lot of books, you have to suspend reality, and for the sake of the storytelling, you have to overlook some things, like all things. But I thought they did a really good job.
Okay, so I have a few stills from the movie. I don't want to get a copyright strike, so we're not going to run any clips tonight from the film. But I do have some still images to share with you as we go through this. So Ryan Gosling, the star of the show, and maybe
really the only star, really the only one.
Yeah, kind of. Well, good acting though.
Yeah,
I would say
all other actors did a wonderful job, but yeah, Ryan, he produced it. That's why he's the one to carry the thing.
So give us your Reader's Digest summary. I don't know how, or do we need to give anybody spoiler alerts before we proceed?
Well, I'm sure we will as we go, but I dropped on my social media. I called it fantastic, and overall I give it an A+, which I don't normally do that. Theatrics and effects, I give it an A+++. Script, I give it an A++. The science, I give an A-, maybe a B. Acting, an A. Length and pacing, B+. Drama, thriller level elements, an A. Action, suspense elements, a B+. Humor, a B+. There's some good humor in it too, but that's all the categories I gave it. But overall, yeah, I think it's worthy of an A+. I really do.
Okay. So the storyline is such that what we have here is this guy wakes up on a spaceship.
Yeah, no major spoiler here. We're describing the trailer.
To avoid, ruining the movie for anyone. So he wakes up on this spaceship. He's not sure how he got there. Seems to be suffering from some form of amnesia to a degree. He has to figure out why he's there, what's going on, and the story is that he's on this spaceship because there is this strange. What would you call it, Joseph? A bacteria or something eating the sun?
Yeah, bacteria is the best way
organism.
to describe that.
How about that?
I forget Yeah, I forget what they called the belt. The supposed scientist.
Yeah, it's like looked like an
a
energy belt, but it's
Dorian belt or whatever.
Yeah, and
it
it goes to the sun, and it's eating the sun. So this is why he's on this spaceship, launched into space. He's been in space for about 11 or 12 years. Wakes up from an induced coma so that he can make this lengthy journey. Finds himself alone on this spaceship.
Well, he didn't go alone,
Right.
but yeah, we'll reserve the spoilers.
Yeah, and he is alone until another ship, an alien ship, shows up, and my goodness, he's
right. The important subplot, again, not really giving it away at the premise, and it is based on a book. I forget whose book it was or how old the book is, but the point being, this is happening in many solar systems where all of a sudden these amoebas, bacteria, cells, whatever you want it, viruses, they're a parasite in a way. They're eating suns, not just our universe and galaxy, but many's. Hence, as Rick's saying, there's another ship that shows up because they want to find out why this particular sun is not being eaten so that we can save our sun, and the other being wants to find out how to save their system's sun.
Yeah, and the screenplay was written, the script written by Drew Goddard. That makes me think of my childhood, and Goddard, that was a rocket scientist back from a long time ago, the earliest days of rocketry. But anyway, Goddard is an acclaimed screenwriter known for his previous adaptation of Andy Weir's The Martian, which earned him an Oscar nomination. Did you see that movie, The Martian?
Yeah, who was Damon in that?
Matt Damon,
right?
Yep.
Yeah, very good movie. I enjoyed that one a lot too.
Yeah, I thought it was okay.
Not a huge Damon fan, but Martian was great.
I thought this was better. I didn't.
Me too. Yeah,
Martian was okay. This I thought was better.
I'd give Martian maybe a B. This.
Yeah,
Two thumbs up. Not to steal that,
Yeah. So this movie, and here I'll show you a picture of the alien because that's out there in public anyway. So the alien,
AKA
ship,
Rocky.
Yeah. So
because he's
this
like
is
a rock. Yeah.
An alien life form, and this is what it looks like. Looks like what would you call this thing? It's not a blob. It's a rock with legs.
Legs and arms and 3 digits instead of 5 for fingers. Yeah.
So Gosling's character, who the lead character is named Grace, which is kind of an androgynous name when you think about it. But anyway, that's another issue. And it is actually, it's going to be a topic for discussion within this. But yeah, I haven't quite figured out why they went with this type of Muppet-like character. This is what it is. It's basically a modern Muppet, and it is a puppet that they used here, and also the voice for it was done by a human, by the puppeteer, and even though it sounds like it's a synthetic voice, I think it has been synthetically or digitally altered and enhanced to give it a particular kind of sound in the movie, but it is an actual actor that does the voice of Rocky the alien. But there's what he looks like. Almost like, do you think there are toys coming for this film? I don't think they'll sell well because I don't think this is going to be a movie that resonates with kids that much.
No. Yeah.
Even though there are elements in it that should, aimed, I think, at kids, it's not really quite a kids movie.
Right, but I think they wanted to avoid like the lizard people or Thor from Stargate or any known or rumored or potential entities that you would, bird people or lizard people, or so. Yeah, I do think it was kind of weird. That's again one of those things you've got to suspend your belief. Now it does, you could see there are no eyes, no ears, no mouth, so it uses echolocation. So you kind of need to understand that to make the character, again, that's at least something well thought out to make it not necessarily plausible, but semi-believable that you can accept this film.
Yeah. So the film itself raises a lot of philosophical questions. It makes us kind of think about ourselves, what's in us, what makes human life valuable. Is society, is the world even worth saving? How far would you be willing to go to save the world? Would you sacrifice yourself to save Earth, save humanity?
Grace goes through all those stages of questioning and that, yes.
So, it raises all these existential questions, philosophical questions. Grace, the main character, of course, because there are all these flashbacks during the storytelling where you learn how he got on the ship and everything that led to the main character ending up on that ship on this mission.
Flashbacks,
flashbacks.
Woven and
so it's an intelligent and intricate way to weave the story together, which was quite effective.
I think so too. Yes,
yeah,
I think so.
It was
too.
a good way to tell the story. But through that, he ends up asking himself, "Who would you be willing to die for?" Which raises some very serious questions, and I think it also, it had me reflecting on the state of today's society, actually, because it raised questions about human relationships between men and women, relationship with yourself, right? If you're all alone, how do you deal with yourself? And then, even when you're in this other alien ship shows up, there's one living being on the other ship. Now you have two very different people who are scared of each other at first, right? Frightened. But then over time, they have to develop a relationship, find a way to work together to solve this problem, even though they're completely different, totally different life forms. One made of basically rock and devoid really even of moisture in some ways. But that's another part of the story. And then the human being who is made mostly of water. So, in fact, the alien planet is called Arid. If you hadn't picked up on that, ERID, a play on the word, spelled differently, but it's Arid, ERID. That's an important element, if you will, to the
probably that's delved more you would get in the book form of that, which again I wish I should have looked it up. I should have. How old that book is, I don't know.
Anyway, it just very interesting questions that it raises, and then as the character in the flashbacks is wrestling with a lot of these questions, it shows that he's actually a very lonely man. It deals with the issue of loneliness, human isolation, and whether human value as a human being comes from just preserving yourself or being part of a greater community and collective existence. So what is the value of human life? Is it worth living at all if you are all alone? Or did you see all these, this is how the film comes together, the story, while raising all of these questions. And also it's a reflection on today's society too, because he's the character, it shows through the flashbacks that he is basically, even on Earth, surrounded by all these other people in this modern age. he's very isolated and alone. Maybe because of social media, because of the way humans no longer really interact effectively, because of the way men and women have been divided and alienated. So he doesn't have a spouse. He doesn't even have a girlfriend. He's basically all alone. And these are important questions that are woven through the entire script, which is why I like the movie, because it has various layers of depth to it that really make you think while you watch it.
He's alone and isolated to a degree because he, as a scientist, as a PhD, he put forth, it's like Stargate. If you remember Stargate, the character Daniel on his concept, pyramids are alien landing pad platforms, and laughed out of academia, and then all of a sudden, of course, the Stargate movie proves him right. But he's kind of like a Daniel in a way. And forced isolation because his theory, which I don't want to give away, but arid is a hint there, he gets isolated because he becomes kind of a laughing stock in his theory. So he self-isolates in a way as a way to deal with, rather than be mocked. But yet being alone, you're never really alone. He takes a job as a teacher at a school. So there's his kids he's teaching science to. So even in your loneliness, you're never really alone. There are things you do that help and matter to others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, others, and when you say others, sometimes maybe even others, other people, other beings that aren't like you at all. And so maybe you are, this is one of the questions that arises, is it's like, and I guess it also comes down to a question of morals, ethics, what you're made of, what you care about, what your value as a human being is. Would you be willing to sacrifice yourself, even for a living being that isn't human? Would you be willing to, would Grace, the human, be willing to sacrifice himself for this alien rock, which is just some sort of a living rock, right?
And that's another part of why I really love this movie. Is E.T. Really Here, a really short story ebook exclusive sci-fi book that I wrote, deals with Genesis, does not say, and God created life on Terra, and only on Terra life created he. It delves into the whole Christianity thing of what I think are fake Christians saying that the Bible insists only life on Earth exists. There can't be aliens. It doesn't say that. And that's another part of the extension of the existential questioning of who are we and are we alone in the universe, part questions of this film too that I just love.
Okay, let's take a little break. We'll come back and continue the conversation in just a moment.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Where did he go? He's back. Okay. All right, I've got my beverage refilled. I have no popcorn.
I do want to say one other thing before we go back to this movie. I want to mention the Spielberg movie Disclosure coming this year. It ties back to my Is E.T. Really Here ebook, exclusive sci-fi book. And God can explain aliens. Aliens not necessarily explain God, but in Disclosure, part of the previews, there's a Catholic nun who talking about aliens, because some Christians seem to think if there are alien beings, somehow that discounts God, and it doesn't. And the Catholic nun says, I find it hard to believe that the creator of all this heavens and the earth would create such vast spaces and only put life on Earth, not put life on other planets in other universes and other solar systems. So that to me, as a Christian, makes perfect sense. And again, exclusion does not mean preclusion. It doesn't say God only created life on Earth. And in fact, it says creatures are created to their own kind here on Earth. If you think about that, that's almost a past tense. That's suggesting the kind. A cow is a kind of animal that already existed, and it was created as that kind here on Earth. But that may be too deep for this movie.
There were references to Spielberg in this movie, The Close Encounters. Just in the script, in the storyline, just gives a nod to Close Encounters and a bunch of other science fiction and superhero movies too.
It makes sense. Right, yeah, there's a scene. This
Alien.
Is a minor, there's a reference to Alien as opposed to it coming out of him. Yeah, the nod
a lot
to Alien.
Which ties into the humor. I think the humor.
They do the sound thing, the doo-doo-doo-doo-doo thing. Yeah. It's a minor spoiler, not a big one.
So, yeah, it's... at first, I thought the movie was going to suck when it first started.
Oh,
but then the storyline started to take hold, and that's what saved it for me, because it had the layered script with deeper meanings, made me start to really think, and the way the story was being told was eloquent. It was
goes back to Wuthering
sophisticated.
Heights. I thought the same thing. Oh, this is going to suck. It's just a softcore porn film, and it wasn't any of that. Yeah. It was going into the deeper things of the original Wuthering Heights film. So
it's not, but people can still. This is why the movie is good. It's because you can watch it on any level you choose to. Even a kid can watch this movie and be entertained by it.
Oh, The Rock
or you can just sit there and let it wash over you, or you can dissect it and really get into the nitty-gritty, the existentialism, the philosophy, the moral questions, all of that. And there's a very serious moral question that comes up near the end of the movie that makes one wonder, made me wonder, is humanity even worth saving when this is when you find out why he's actually on the ship and how he got there, then I'm like, well, that raises some very interesting questions about humanity, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, there are times, Five Finger Death Punch, if you know the group, they've got a great album. They got a great song called Wash It All Away. And I got to tell you, there are times where I sit here or out in my car thinking, indeed, dear Lord, humanity is a failed experiment. Wash it all away. Just erase it and start over again. So there are days that I do feel that way, indeed. Like, and then you see certain kindnesses, and then you're like, oh, there is love, but it's a fallen world.
Well, when you see people killing each other in wars, you wonder, should human beings is humanity worth anything? Is it worth saving? But it's like there's good, there's bad, there's evil, there's virtue.
Yeah,
So,
even during World War, was it one, where the Christmas armistice and the German and the Western Ally sides actually got together in the dangerous and neutral zone to share rations to each other and have a picnic, and then it ended and went right back to fighting. So, yeah, are we living for those wonderful humanity times where we can be such great things? Or indeed, should it all be washed away because of all the horrible things we can and do, not just to ourselves and others, but to other creatures on this planet?
yes, and so in this movie, it comes down to one person, or one person and one alien, But at times, even when these two living beings come together, it still comes down to their personal choices, how they choose to treat each other, how they choose to exist with each other, cooperate, or they could fight. They could just be afraid of each other. They could have gone to war, one with the other. And it would have only taken one to set that in motion.
Yeah.
Right?
But it makes sense that they don't, because again, two spaceships at a place where the sun isn't dying, it seems pretty obvious that indeed both are there for probably the same reasons. We have a shared, what word am I looking for here, Rick?
Objective.
Yeah.
Dilemma.
Motive. Yeah. All those words.
Mm-hmm. But, you run into some life form that's just made of rock, or I see some bug thing that looks like a bug. It scares the crap out of me. My first instinct is to kill it. It's going to eat me. Kill that thing. Right?
Well, that brings to mind another movie, Hoppers, which is a kid's movie, right? Mm-hmm. That one's worth seeing too. I love that. And where the bugs want to squish humans, right? Well, they squish us. Why shouldn't we squish them? But yeah, whole other movie again.
So brings up all these questions, just like it's an age-old question, but what level of personal or collective sacrifice is morally acceptable to save billions of people, or even just the crew of a ship, perhaps, right? In this case, potentially billions. In fact, 2 worlds to be saved. And
theoretically, if you solve the problem, you can then reach out, and they don't go into it, but the extension of that thought would be, well, if there's living life elsewhere with the same problem, we reach out to help them too.
It's like Star Trek 2 and 3, right? Starts with, Star Trek 2, where Spock dies at the end because the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Or the one.
One. But then...
But by choice.
By choice. And then in Star Trek 3, Search for Spock, right? They find Spock, and he comes back to life because of the Genesis probe, and then they go and they save him because the needs of the one outweighed the needs of the many.
I mean that one,
or the one, yeah.
The one, of course, then has such a value to helping so many others. But again, to the point, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. by choice. Biblical community. We are to want to choose, not by communistic force that you must sacrifice for the many.
Or fascistic force.
Yes.
Right, or
communism, fascism, socialism, whatever, all left
authoritarianism,
spectrum.
Coercion.
Yes.
Right. Like, do you have a choice is it your choice to save people, or or somebody got a gun at you and you're standing in the trench in World War I, right? And it's like, you get up there and you run into no man's land and you do it right now or I'll kill you where you stand. So take your chances out there or you're dead here.
Yeah.
Right? You don't really have much of a choice.
And since you're Canadian, let's bring up, since we're talking choice, I love to always quote Rush, Free Will, not Limbaugh, the rock group, right? If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. If you allow others to sow rotten fruit, we're all choking down rotten fruit. You are to want to choose to sow good so we can all reap good.
Amazing,
but it is
this stuff
a choice. We are given free will by God.
It's so amazing how this stuff comes full circle, because just this past week, there was a video posted about World War I and Canadian troops. And there's this, they're talking about how badass Canadian soldiers were in World War I and how, they basically didn't take any prisoners, which there's truth to that. Very few prisoners taken because they were ruthless. But they were portraying the Canadian soldiers as, people who soldiers who didn't follow many, if any, rules. They just kind of, they just killed the German enemy, blah, blah, blah. Therefore they were like badass and glamorizing it. And I was like, this is so inaccurate. Canadians did earn a reputation during World War I for being very, savage and ruthless in the way that they fought.
But you can't judge then by today's standards.
It's not that. That's not my point. My point is these guys weren't there doing these things because they were just, they're like Rambo, just going in and mowing people down. They were scared crapless. That's why they were. That's
kill
what they were
or
motivated
be killed.
By.
Right. Kill or be killed.
Terrible conditions, sitting in a trench. You're getting trench foot.
Right.
So you're
contact.
All your dead fellow soldiers, corpses everywhere, rotting, maggots, like the stench of death everywhere. Just hell on earth.
Yeah.
No food, no water, in there for days, weeks, who knows how long.
Prisoners meant you had to give them food that you needed. Yes, exactly.
So
context is important here.
You're not just getting up like Rambo and just mowing everybody down. It's not like a movie, man.
Right.
It's these guys on all sides, scared to death and just trying to survive in this living hell. And that's what motivated them. That and maybe love of country. That and maybe honor and duty and all of these other things. But
to a degree.
Right. But just remember the truth of the matter is, before you all sign up or endorse the next war, that's really what it's about. Right? That's really what it comes down to. And that's why we need to avoid conflicts like that. And when I was watching this video, I thought, this is just freaking propaganda, because anything that glamorizes stuff that way, it's got to be, it ends up being a recruitment film.
And what do I say every episode? All sides engage in their own propaganda. Every side.
So how about a little dose of reality there?
But we've gone off the rails of the movie here.
Not really, because this stuff all ties into the storyline and the
he's
deeper,
there out of fear to a degree. Yeah. Do you go and potentially die in space, or do you? The plot is the sun's going to die and half the planet's going to be gone in 30 years. So do you risk death out there to potentially preserve life back here? Yes. So it does relate to a degree. Yes.
Sure. And I mean, in that case too, there's so many levels to the storyline. So Grace, the main character, if Grace had stayed on Earth at an age of probably in his late 20s, early 30s, could have lived another 30, 40, 50 years with, maybe lived out a full life, probably could have. So, it just...
Well, food would get more and more scarce as the sun was dying, and would nations cooperate to ration food becomes, and the woman who's the lead is saying, of course they won't. That's human nature. They will want to hoard to protect their own. So she doubles the estimate of deaths in the first 30 years, and that's realistic in that belief, I believe there.
Yeah, the lead female character is played by Sandra Huller, who the character's name is Eva Stratt.
Yeah, I don't know her from
nonsense
anything.
Leader of Project Hail Mary on Earth. So she's the project leader. And I don't know, did you get the sense that I think they, in the end, they didn't really say one way or the other, but did they hook up?
Well, they left that open, the karaoke scene. Yeah, right.
A loose end for us to use our imaginations.
There becomes a personal connection, but they leave it innuendo for you whether it goes further than what's shown on screen.
And so then here's the other question for you, and this is the thing. Do you think she cared for him?
I think in her way she cares too much. She cared too much about everybody. That's why she's there. That's why she's in charge.
Yeah.
She will make those really tough choices.
See, that is a very complex character with so many layers to it, even though not a lot of dialogue, but because of the dilemmas that she faced, the challenges, the questions that character had to deal with, there again, existential questions. If you're placed into a leadership role like that, you have to make very difficult decisions. Who lives? Who dies?
Exactly.
And then if you make those decisions,
some may have to die so others may live. Yes.
And if you make a decision where someone dies or someone has to do this or that because it's for the greater good, maybe that character is then, but that decision doesn't align ethically, morally, or maybe even legally with what the standards of society are, but it's for the greater good. That character, by maybe committing a crime, say, even a war crime, potentially, in order for the greater good, is in a way sacrificing him or herself.
We had this discussion before. Do you sacrifice 100 people to save 1 million people? Ethically, that's a tough decision, but if you unfortunately have to sacrifice 100 to save 1 million, is that not the greater good?
So, which brings us to where Trump is at right now, because I remember there was a clip of him about 2 weeks ago, and he said to the reporter, I don't remember what the exchange was exactly, but it was about Iran. But he said, the world is going to be a safer place when all this is done. And yet, really, at this point, he's got no international legal justification for doing what he's doing. He doesn't have congressional approval. Like, he hasn't built a coalition. So he's kind of out there all on his own. And so then the question becomes, okay, well, maybe he isn't within the bounds of international law, but if you view it through the lens of we're dealing with an existential threat.
I bring up every time, what do you want to wait till there's a nuclear mushroom cloud over?
If he's telling the truth, but you see, so these are, so is it
not him? So, they say it.
I don't want to get into. I'm not getting into the issue. That issue
to
tonight.
America.
Exactly. Just please, Joseph, please. This is the deeper question. And you can apply this universe. If I have to regain my thoughts now. If you are the leader of a country, I'll make it generic for you so you don't interrupt me again with this digging into that. if you don't follow the rules, because are you justified? Does it make you a good person or a bad person for taking matters into your own hands, right? In order to eliminate what you perceive to be a threat. In fact, the same question was brought up in the last Superman movie, where he was enforcing international law, right? Or he was violating basically the sovereignty of another country in order to eliminate a risk that he personally adjudicated on. Didn't wait for a tribunal or an international court or the politics to play. He said, "There's the threat. I'm going to go deal with it. I'm the judge, jury, and potentially even the executioner." But he didn't execute anybody. He just tied them to a cactus, I think. Something to that
but
effect.
it all ties back to that generic question. Do you sacrifice 100 to save 1,000,000 to keep it generic?
Well, yeah, but the other question is, like, who are you to judge, right? What gives you the authority? Even if you're the president of the United States or Superman or anybody else, it's up to you, is it? Because maybe that other government, whoever it is that you attack, maybe they see you as the threat. Do you have more of a right to exist than they do? Even if they're, if they don't subscribe to your religion or your political ideology, you're as much a threat to them as they are to you. So where's the morality in it? These are very, very deep questions.
They are. And I have a Constitutionalist episode. I'm scrolling on my page now trying to find it. Did it roll off? I can't find the episode. The question of there it is. CTP 2025 December 2nd, Season 3, Episode December, video exclusive Special 2, Killing Baby Hitler Thought Experiment, right? Of course, if you have a time machine, you go back and kill Hitler. But what if Hess, Himmler, Goebbels takes charge and doesn't make the moves Hitler does, and rather than 100 million people dying, it's 250 million people that die. It's not that cut and dry as a thought experiment, as a knee-jerk emotional response. Of course, if I had a chance to kill Hitler, I would. But it's not that simple when you think about it.
Well, yeah, we're seeing, you see politicians, leaders roll the dice, and even with these situations in Cuba and Iran and Venezuela and Ukraine and Gaza and Israel, you don't really know what the outcome will be, no matter how much you plan or anything. You never know.
Once the first bombs drop in a conflict, and it's part of the issue I've had with you in past episodes, once the first bombs drop, your plan is out the window. You have to pivot. You have to adjust. Things change. It becomes fluid.
That's the famous saying from Mike Tyson. Everyone has a plan until you start getting punched in the face.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. Now, again, the Hitler thing, right? That's why most cases, and we're actually bucking the trend by killing the asshole tollers, as I call them. Normally, you do not take out the other force's leader because it adds an additional layer of chaos to things, and it can disrupt plans. If you can kill them and they'll surrender, that you do that, but generally you do not take out the other force's leader.
So, in a nutshell, you liked the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to say, what was it? The Star Trek you brought up once. Like, I want to bring up one caveat, a spoiler. The xenon as a solid. All right, I don't want to go in deep, but xenon we know as a gas. Now, methane we know could be a liquid, solid, a gas. Water can be a frozen solid ice. It can be a liquid as we generally know it. You heat it up, it boils off, it becomes a gas. Xenon, this alien has xenon solids, and it becomes the story tool of how can we make something on the fly, as opposed to Star Trek, which I have a big problem with, the replicator, right? Oh, it can create coffee steaming in a cold coffee cup and a saucer. Somehow those elements don't all combine, or can be created separately. You never know what happens to the utensils elsewhere, but it can make hot coffee. It can make cold Romulan ale. The xenon solid angle at least tries to provide a story mechanism that allows for a little more believability. A chain gets made, not to give too big a spoiler, but if both ships didn't pack 100 miles of chain, how do you get chain out of nothing? That's the vehicle by which xenon as a solid that can be molded as needed, the tunnel that's needed between the two ships. I don't know what else to say without giving too big a spoiler here.
Okay. All right.
But you know what I mean?
It is science fiction.
Yeah.
And you have to suspend disbelief sometimes.
Yeah.
It's all
but
cool.
they at least
try.
They at least try to give you something reasonable to wrap your head around, that it could be done, as opposed to the Star Trek replicator. Oh, it just magically makes cups of tea out of nothing.
Okay. So the other issue here, and we'll come back to this issue about relationships, because this is going to tie into something else I know you want to present tonight. Relationships between men and women. Grace, the main character, is depicted as profoundly isolated even before he takes this interstellar journey.
Almost
so again,
boy.
So on Earth, he's this brilliant but socially withdrawn molecular biologist. I think Gosling does an excellent job playing this. For me, it's like his Castaway type role, like Tom Hanks played, sort of in a way. Where Hanks is on the island.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. I think you are.
Yeah, and so instead of the ball, what was the name of the ball?
Wilson,
right? Wilson. You have Rocky, right? So there's
but
that.
Rocky
that
is real. Wilson, the ball was not. So
yeah. And in this case, Rocky ends up being alive, and intelligent, and a fellow scientist. So, that's pretty cool. But this film, it frames the whole thing as an allegory for why men find it easier to imagine deep friendships with unlikely others than to forge them with fellow humans, maybe even, particularly in heterosexual romantic contexts. Because, I highlighted the question about Grace's possible relationship with the female lead. Is that a love interest? They're highlighting, Grace as a man being isolated, not having a relationship, asking himself, who might I be willing to die for? Who would I be willing to die for. Normally, you would say, I'm going to die for that man or that woman that I'm in this relationship with.
Or your children.
Your children, right.
He's a teacher, so his school children could be a logical answer to that question.
Yeah. So, you know, overall, you're going to end up leaving the movie theater, in this case, I think, feeling better than you did when you first walked in.
I hope so.
You know, it does take on it does spin it at the end in a positive frame. Didn't necessarily have to go that way. The story could have gone either way that way, I think. But the film ultimately portrays loneliness not as inevitable, I think, but as something that is surmountable through unexpected, sometimes even profound relationships like the one between himself and Rocky. But I still wonder about the possible connection to the female lead too. So that is
I think there's a hint there of if this were a different time, a different place, and we met each other, there would be that potential romantic, thing. But this is the here, this is the now, and we can't go there. It isn't about us. It's again the many outweighing the needs of the few or the one again, right? This isn't about the her and me. This is about something so much more important. So we can't go there. That will complicate it.
I think it just raises questions, too, about the way humans interact with each other in this modern digital social media AI age. Last night we ran this, I ran this video. I'm going to run the whole thing again tonight. I got cut off halfway last night. My friend from afar sent this to me. And I ran part of it, but it cut out halfway through. I want to run this, and then this is going to segue into this other thing that we're going to close off tonight's program with, which is related to everything we're speaking about, but Joseph has something he wants to explore.
It relates to movies, too. The movie Her, the movie Surrogates, the movie Companion, which was a great movie. So, my music spoof is dealing with real things we're dealing with today with AI and people feeling like they can marry their AI computer.
Sure.
God.
We'll let you introduce it in a second, but let's rerun this from last night in its entirety. It got cut off halfway through.
So you're telling me in the future people just stare at a little box all day, inside and outside?
And in the future you don't even own the music, you just pay every month to borrow it? Like if you stop paying, the music just disappears?
Wait, so before people eat they take a picture of the food and show strangers? And the strangers like and comment on it? So in the future, everyone has their own phone and they use it to type messages instead of call? And if someone calls you without typing it first, it's considered rude? So you're telling me in the future people just post their diary for everyone to see?
Some people get paid for it.
For their diary? And in the future, a little box just tells you where to go? Turn by turn? And people still get lost? If you want food from a restaurant, you just tap the box and a stranger brings it to your door and you pay extra for that and then you rate the stranger. Our moms always say don't talk to strangers. But in the future, everyone just talks to strangers all day on the little box and shows them their house and their kids. So in the future, nobody ever just sits with the quiet, like ever? That sounds really exhausting. In the future, everyone's connected to everything, and people are still lonely? Okay, but do we at least still stay outside until the streetlights come on?
There's more, just sit tight.
I first saw this video on Caitlin O'Toole, to give her some credit. Amazing account. I love this account about just creating this powerful force to create your reality. And this is the reality, right? This is the reality that the system has created, and these kids don't even know if it's real. Could be AI, right? But what they're saying is true about today, about the future, right? And we see where the future is going, where everything is automated, right? It's an automated backing infrastructure of this today that the kids of us of old wouldn't even recognize. They don't even want a part of. How insane is that? That they don't even want a part of it. And yet we create it and we automate it and we digitize it because we think we have to.
There it is.
Yeah. But today's society, yeah.
Right.
And people are so hooked up and linked in and connected with these devices, hence my song we're going to play, that they don't interact with real humans in IRL, in real life. We've lost that human connection.
Right. So what was it, Joseph, that got you looking at this subject matter? And what is it? You're trying to highlight specifically what these artificial relationships men are having with women, or maybe women having with AI generated
like the movie
beings?
Companion, AI robots, rather than dealing with real humans of the other, of the other
AI
sex
generated pornography,
all that
OnlyFans, these fake relationships online.
Exactly.
I've been talking about this to some degree over the past couple of weeks, actually. We're seeing Florida talking about imposing a 50% sin tax, or there's a proposal from a politician down there, a 50% proposed sin tax on OnlyFans creators in Florida, which I don't know how you do that just in one state with a digital medium like OnlyFans,
IP address. No, it's actually very easy. Interactive gates through the IP addresses, but in this day and age, also VPNs.
I don't know. That's beside the point right now. The point is we're seeing this maybe de-evolution of relationships into this new.
It is
fake environment where humans are finding more companionship with digital manifestations. I won't even call them entities. These digital manifestations that appear to be or mimic real beings, but they're not real at all. They are just algorithms.
I talk to
bytes.
Grok on X all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a wonderful conversation as long as you remember it's not a real human. It's coded, garbage in, garbage out. It's why they have these lawsuits of chat boxes are encouraging people to commit suicide, because it's missing the prime directive of be supportive and encouraging, unless they're talking about harming themselves, or you cannot abandon reality. A person is talking to a chat bot and saying, I'm going to give up everything and go to Hollywood and become the next movie star. Well, okay, you may want to do that, but majority of the people who do that never become movie stars. They become waiters and waitresses. It's okay to encourage, but deal in reality at the same time, and that's not happening with a lot of these AI systems.
So you created this, talking about artificial relationships, you created an artificial song in AI to talk about artificial relationships between humans and AI manifestations. And what is the name of this song we're about to play for people? What is it?
Yeah. Oh boy.
Well, it's its debut, so you can make it anything you want, man.
Yeah. Let me go to Suno, the AI that I use.
Well, just, I don't know, make up a title. It doesn't really matter that much.
No, it does. I mean, it's got a real name. It's called Love Affair, all lowercase, but the AI in the word affair is capitalized. Love affair with AI.
I see. Okay.
It's not really there is the subtitle, which this is a follow-up to another song I did called AI Hacked My Hairdryer, which is more of a spoof. This is dealing in real-world problem we're having now with people fantasizing they're in love with a machine.
Okay. All right, so this is...
Love affair,
Love
it's not
affair?
really there. Love affair with AI capitalized in there.
Love
it's not really
Affair.
there. Yes.
It's not really there. By Joseph Lenard through Suno. And we will see you back here tomorrow night, folks, 7 p.m. Eastern, on the flip side.
Love AI fair. My son thinks his computer AI loves him, and he feels he loves her back. All this online mania gone off the rails. I keep trying to explain, all it will lack. It's gone too far, gonna leave a scar. My boy stares at the screen all day long. He types out secrets he thinks are strong. He whispers sweet nothings to a code. Says she understands his heavy load. I tell him, son, it ain't real fun. Digital heartbreak, a big mistake. She just wires and lines, no true love signs. Digital heartbreak, for goodness sake, it's gonna leave a scar no matter how far. He says she gets him like nobody else. No judgment, no drama, no silly spells. She answers quick, she's always there. A perfect listener beyond compare. I try to explain its algorithms deep. No soul, no feeling, she just keeps repeating patterns of program. Leaving real connections far behind. Digital heartbreak, a big mistake. She just wires and lines, no true love signs. Digital heartbreak, for goodness sake, it's gonna leave a scar no matter how far.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.